talk about in this video is learning to play traditional tunes on the harmonica. By traditional tunes, I mean tunes coming out of the Celtic tradition, notably Scottish and Irish traditions. These are tunes that are played acoustically and that go back a very long way. They have a social function, typically, and are often as not associated with dance. In North America, this Celtic influence manifests itself in various local traditions: Acadian, Québécois, Métis, Cree fiddling. Even in the States, you have Appalachian, old-time, Virginia string bands, and much more besides. So these tunes, they're great fun to play, and what I want to encourage you to do if you're interested in playing these tunes on the harmonica is to give yourself the time to acquire them individually and collectively. And by that I mean learning them incrementally. So you don't try to get it wholesale, get it as one unit, but that you start to grok the rhythm. You get a handle on the rhythmic feel of a tune. You get a handle on some particularity of a tune. You get a handle on the melody, and you may not get the melody perfectly, or you may have it like 80%, and even play it like that for a while. And then you run across a version, and that gets you doing a little bit of research, and then you sort it out and iron out a passage or two. And by and by, you will be playing it better and better. So that when you sit in a jam, you're going to be ever more comfortable playing a given tune. And this song, Over the Waterfall, I learned from a banjo player a few years back. And as I've been preparing this video, I've been ironing out the tune a little bit more and sorting it out a little bit more, straightening it out for myself. And that's how you go with these songs. There are so many of them and so many variations to them that you cannot be expected to know them all or to master them all in any sort of absolute sense, because there is no absolute sense. They're part of a musical tradition, and insofar as they continue to be played, they're part of a living tradition. If you're sitting in a jam and somebody's playing Over the Waterfall, and maybe you've only heard it once or twice, maybe you've never heard it before, but you can get that it's in the key of D, and you'll get that it has a traditional form, AABB. This is the traditional quintessential tune form where the first part of the song is played twice and then the second part of the song is played twice. You may be able to hear that each part is 8 bars long, and so that gives you a handle. It gives you something to orient yourself. I mean, the AABB, that's the structure of the tune, so you have structure there. And then you can start to hear how it's being played rhythmically. Played through the A part twice, but I didn't really play through the A part of the tune. I kind of, comped it, chugged a bit, and did it in a way that was very general. But notice that I ended it, so I was just drawing on the draw chord, using the draw chord on the harmonica. focused on the 2 draw. I may grab a bit of the 1, I may play 2, 3, 4, but it's mostly on the 2 and the 3. And if you get into bluegrass and you get those mandolin chops, so the A part of the song moves down to that 4 chord, the G chord. And this is one of the particularities of this tune. And if you can find particularities in individual tunes, those particularities you want to get. If anything can be said to be that is part of that tune, that's part of it. So you want to make sure that you get that right, because if you don't, you're not really playing. At that point, you can say you're not really playing the tune. And you can hear that. So do da da do da la la da 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 ba ba ba. So you kind of need that little step down to the G. Just with that, you're already getting a bit of a feel of what the tune is. And then if you can start to hear a few of the notes, the melody notes, you may not get them all, but if you can just hear the beginning of it. So you got the 3 notes at the end of the A part, you got 3 notes at the beginning of the A part, and now you're starting to give a little bit of definition to the tune. So you're sitting in a jam, and that may be the only thing you pick up from the tune. Then you go home and you work out some of those melody notes. Maybe you work out all of the melody notes. Maybe the next time you come to the jam, you know the A part of the tune. Maybe you still haven't figured out the B part. But at least you got a handle on how that tune goes. Often as not, traditional tunes, I will play them in first position. I'll play them in straight harp. Straight harp being the same thing as first position. That is to say, the key of the harmonica. So this tune being in D, I might want to try it out on the D harp. But because it moves to that 4 chord, the G chord, at the end of the A part, on a D harp, I don't have that chord, and I'd have to make sure I can hit my bent note on my full step bend on hole 2 very cleanly and convincingly and accurately. I also like the feel of cross harp for this song. Not entirely sure why, it just feels right, but you don't want to overly bluesify it necessarily either. You want to play it in a very straight traditional tune sort of way. So the cross harp works well for the A part. The B part, I have a major 7 note that comes in, which means I need to overblow that on hole 5. If you can overblow, if you know how to do that, then you can do that. You just incorporate that as another note, as you do with your traditional bending. It's just another note that you incorporate into your melodic playing. If you're not comfortable with overblowing, or it's just a technique you don't use, you can get around that, and I'll just show you that. So the B part, Da do do da dee. So there I played it. If I don't play it, I just lean on the sixth blow. I might give a little articulation on the sixth blow. So, you know, I'm giving it a bit of rhythmic feel to it. I'm giving it some rhythmic color. I'm not just, you could just hang on the note, but you also can articulate and punctuate that note to communicate some rhythmic feel. So you need not feel like, oh, there's notes in there that I can't play, so I can't play that tune. No, if the tune is speaking to you, you can still play the tune. There, I totally simplified the melody, but communicated the tune rhythmically. So if you're at an old-time jam, somebody's playing this, you don't know all the melody notes, but you can hear what's going on. You know what key you're in, and you hear, you listen, and you use your ear, and you hear them going up to that. So these are all examples of what I mean about putting a song together, learning how to play a song incrementally. So you might try it on the D harp because you think, oh, it's in the key of D, it's a traditional tune, and then you kind of feel maybe it doesn't work all that well. You try it on the G harp, cross harp. Oh, parts of it work, but I can't quite get that one note in the B part, or maybe you do have the technique and it's like, okay, so I need the overblow, so you play it, or you don't have that note, so you find a little way around it, and you play with a convincing rhythmic feel. You basically learn how to feel the rhythm of the song. And there's something else that comes along with this, is that even then when you learn the melody and you learn the song, then you may be playing it, but let's say you've learned it 90%. It means on a given occasion you play it through, but sometimes maybe there's a corner of the song, a bar or two where you haven't totally figured out what the notes are there, but you can still land the song because you have a sense of the feel. So, you know, the B part. The end, there's a da ba da da. You can feel the cadence of the song. You can feel how it's supposed to end, and that still works. No one's going to come and take you to music jail because you just did instead of, you know. And then that little ending, I got off a YouTube of a bluegrass band doing it, and I like it, so now I'm using that. So you work out a version for yourself that's also a version that you can play enjoyably with other people. You get the tune so you really know it and can play it, but then you're playing it through with other people and you find, say, your mouth has dried up and you can't really play. You've got to stop and generate a bit of saliva and swallow, because it's really hard to play the harmonica when your throat's dry. So you got to stop and do that. You're going to fall out of the tune. You're going to stop playing for a bar or two. First of all, these tunes have little phrases, little calls and answers, questions and answers. And as you learn a given tune, you're going to hear that. Ba-da-dee-doo, ba-dee-da-dee-da. Ba-da-dee-doo, ba-da. So you've got the first phrase that's repeated, da-da-dee-doo, da-da-da-da-da. It has its answer, da-da-dee-doo-da. It's repeated, da-da-dee-doo, da-da-da-da-da. Ba-ba-ba. And then a different answer. Which is to say that even if you get lost in a tune, once you know it, you shouldn't be lost for more than 2 or 4 bars. And if you've got to stop for any reason in the middle of playing, the tune was always there. It just kept going. And I kept coming in where I would have been coming in had I been playing through all the way through. So as you're learning it, focus on the rhythm, the rhythmic feel. Try to pick out the signature elements of the tune. And don't worry about every last note. If it's a chromatic note that you may not be playing with facility on the harmonica, you may be able to just not play that note or hang on a neighboring note. And again, keep the rhythmic feel. You may have a skeleton sense of the melody. You may have the beginnings of the melody, the end of the melody, and you start to hear the phrases and how they relate to each other. And in all these ways, you make up the tune. And so many tunes work this way in one sense or another. And what it comes down to is just throwing yourself at it and trying to play it. Obviously, you need a certain amount of technique on the harp, but as you play these tunes, you will also further develop your technique. And then as you learn a song and you play it in one context, you may play it with somebody who plays it really slow. And then you may also play it with somebody who plays it faster. I used the overblow in the first beat part, but I didn't use it in the second. Creates a little bit of variation. Another thing you may want to do eventually is move the melody up an octave. So this takes just a bit of thinking on the harp, because as we know, no two octaves are laid out the same way on the harmonica. So you got to really hear the melody then and find the same notes an octave higher. And you're, in general, where you're drawing on the low end, you're going to draw on the high end, and where you're going to blow on the low end, you're going to blow on the high end, except your to draw is a D note, and you have to blow in 6 for that D note. So you're going to have to adjust your breathing pattern to play the same melody in the higher octave. Because the position of notes relative to each other are not also the same, you'll be blowing and drawing in different holes relative to where you're starting your melody. So the melody starts in holes. First do da dee do. You're playing all of that in holes 3 and 4 on the low end, but you're using 3 holes when you play that in the higher octave. And the third note is in the same hole as the first note, whereas in the lower octave, the third note is in the same hole as the second note. So these little variations that you have to sort out. Your movement on the harmonica and your breathing pattern are going to change. The B part, the melody note that I had to overblow in the middle octave, I now have as a blow bend. So the breathing is a little bit different. Positioning, the holes I'm blowing in, drawing in, are changing a bit from what's going on down here. I'm using draw bends here. My full step in 3 is now my 6th draw. My overblow in 5 is now blow bend in 9. So you do have to map it out as you move it to a different octave. So that takes a little bit of woodshedding too. But you can already, in a jam session, you can already start doing that a bit on the fly. And if it's a friendly jam session and nobody gives you too many dirty looks, yeah, it's part of the way that you're going to learn how to play that melody in the higher octave, because you're doing it in the context of the music. It's like you have, it's better than a backing track. You have live music to play along with. So you can start to figure these things out. So I'm still learning this tune in the 3rd octave, and as I keep working on it, it's just going to get more fluid, more easy. And that's how it goes. It's not like you've got it or you don't got it. It's this great spectrum of getting it into you. there's your starting point, and then you get to a point where, yeah, you've kind of got the song, and I mean, you've written, or you have the song, but you know, you may want to then work it out on your D harp for some reason or another, or maybe you want to play it on another harp altogether, or maybe you want to play it on a Patty Richter harmonica, or a differently tuned harmonica, some other differently tuned harmonica. So, you know, it's up to you to decide when you've learned the tune to your satisfaction and how you want to play it. But the horizon tends to keep expanding in my experience. But so this is the thing. Be friendly to yourself as you take this incremental approach. I highly encourage just taking this incremental approach and bite off what you can chew at each step of the way.